Alrighty, let's go flying.
Clear prop. Prop. This channel is about working on aircraft and flying those airplanes. So come take a seat and let's go for a flight.
So this video is extremely overdue. I've been putting off this video for a while. I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to post it, but after having some conversations, some other pilot friends of mine, kind of got into conversations of embarrassing moments where we messed up. The thing that I came away with was that if you cared enough to be that upset about a mistake you made while you're in control of an airplane, it shows that you really care and that you have a high level of true professional attitude, regardless if you're a private pilot or ATP rated or whatever. In this video, I made a very critical error that could have been very catastrophic. This will be my first long solo cross-country. So our route of flight today will take us from Payne Field to Bellingham International and headed back down south, a transition over Pin Cove out towards Port Angeles, and then come back to Payne Field. This was about a 2-hour flight. I'll be flying 180 nautical miles. We're in nifty 150, red, white, and blue Cessna 150, and our call sign is 45586. Last little check on the checklist. Then carefully maneuver out of the box. It's a little tight here. And as of course on these really nice days, there's a lot of traffic. There's one departure there. And then one more on final waiting for, right there. Waiting for him to get off the runway. And then it's my turn. Alright, get the center line. Heels on the floor, staying off the brakes. Power's in. Airspeed's alive. And rotate. And as always, you want to keep your head on a swivel. Even though this is a controlled airfield, you just never know if somebody's going to do something that's unexpected. Heck, it even could be me. So while there's a little lull in the action, I pull out the old camera. And I'm so distracted by taking pictures, I never noticed this guy going right past me and below. But Mount Baker was too good of an opportunity to miss, so got a good photograph there. And here I'm calling in to Whidbey Approach to get flight following up to Bellingham. So as I'm approaching Bellingham, Whidbey Approach is saying goodbye, and I'm back onto advisory frequencies. I've contacted Bellingham Tower, and they've advised me that there are P3 Orions doing maneuvers, and that I'm to stay to the east of downtown. So as I'm flying over the city, I'm trying to identify and get eyes on a big old airplane that looks like this. Tower has instructed me to follow behind the last of the P3s and make my approach into Bellingham. There's the first notch of flaps. If I'm correct in remembering, this might be my first time coming into Bellingham. This, incidentally, is also where I did my private pilot exam because the examiner lived up here. So I'm trying to avoid the wake turbulence and land beyond where the P3 landed. So after adding the last notch of flaps, it got me a little more sink rate, and I started getting into a little bit of the turbulence. So I didn't make my turn off, so I had to hustle down to Delta. Unfortunately, that made the guy behind me have to go around. But after talking to one of my pilot coworker friends, he explained to me, he said, "Hey, you were cleared to land on that runway. That is your runway to possess until you were comfortable to get off." So I don't feel so bad about making that guy having to go around now. This is kind of a funny exchange between the ground controller. He's probably thinking to himself, I know why he wants a picture of the tower. And I think that gave me a little reprieve being a student pilot. Alright guys in the tower, say cheese. The taxi instructions are rather comical because you would taxi on Foxtrot, Alpha, then Golf. So once again I get to take off right behind a P3, and what's not in view is the Allegiant 757 right behind me, so it's pretty interesting to have a little 150 being sandwiched between a Lockheed P3 and a 757. Alright, power up, keep your heels on the floor, hold that center line. The tower is going to give me an early turnout so that Allegiant 57 behind me can take off. It was pretty cool to be able to basically turn over the top of the terminal building there. And then once we're out of the Bellingham airspace, it's time to call up Whidbey approach again. Pick up my flight following over to Port Angeles. Oh, and right here is where I got to see a flight of 4 F-18 Hornets cut in front of my path and land at the Naval Air Station at Whidbey Island. After the transition over Oak Harbor, Pin Cove, we are now approaching Port Angeles International Airport. This airport has a port of entry and customs, ergo it is an international airport. So at these uncontrolled airports, it's the pilot's responsibility to control spacing from each other and to decide how to make the approach into the airport. And we do that by picking up the weather and aligning ourselves to the oncoming wind. This airport, on this particular day, had a slight left to right crosswind, which means the wind being left to right is going to push me into the runway. So as I come on the downwind, and we'll see the runways right there starting to come into view. I'm still not correcting for this wind, and I'm getting closer and closer to that touchdown point. Now ultimately I'll be landing 180 degrees from the direction I'm traveling right now. We fly parallel to the runway. And beam our touchdown point and pull out the card heat. We're going to add the first notch of flaps. I announce and make my left base turn. As I come out of the turn, I still haven't recognized that I'm too close to the runway. The yellow arrow is my touchdown point, and the green arrow represents the wind pushing me in that direction. As I turn for final, I overbank, and I recover by putting the nose down. Because I had altitude, I was able to recover. Kept the nose pointed down. That increases my airspeed. So it makes it very difficult once I reach my round out point to control the airplane. And with the crosswind, it's one of my worst landings ever. You can see the windsock and the tetrahedron off to the left, clearly showing the left to right crosswind. At that point, I just wanted to get off the runway and settle down. My mission now is to take a picture of the customs building. A few moments of rather long taxi, which I've cut out because it was extremely boring. We are back onto the runway and headed back to Payne Field. You can see the bank angle there going into the wind. And off to the left is the tetrahedron and the windsock. Tetrahedron is a big triangle-like structure that's on a pivot, so it will always point into the wind. We pass over Sequim, Washington. And coming into view is Diamond Point. And yes, for those who don't know what that is an actual airfield directory. There are no iPads, iPods, BlackBerry, Raspberries. During this period of time, you fly by paper charts and paper books. So we'll pull up the weather coming into Payne Field. That'll be Whidbey Island. Let Payne Field know that we're coming in and would like a full stop landing. A little less aggressive on the left base to final, lining up with the big runway. 9,000 feet of beautiful asphalt to land on. Perfectly on the center line, but a lot better than the last landing I made. Speed up the taxi back to the parking spot. I thank you for sticking it out on this rather long video, and I appreciate it so much. So one last thought I want to leave everybody with is that we all do make mistakes from time to time, and if we are lucky enough to survive the big mistakes, we should share them. When it comes to factors and faults in accident reports, the base to final turn is absolutely at the top of the list. And this is the mistake I made. Coming into Port Angeles, I made a very critical mistake because I wasn't aware of my surroundings, what was happening with the wind conditions, and my relationship to the touchdown point. I got myself into a little tight corner and I turned the airplane too abruptly. It could have been catastrophic, dare I say fatal. However, I reacted properly to this situation and I had enough altitude to correct my mistake. We as a community of pilots learn from each other and we're better for it. So that's why I posted this video, and I hope that in some small way or form somebody can glean some information and keep themselves safe. So I want you to go out there and be safe. Keep your heels on the floor, flaps up, and keep the blue over brown.